And we were talking action movies, counting down my personal top 10 favorite action movies of all time in honor of John Wick Chapter 4, which is in theaters right now. And I recommend everybody go to their theater and check this one out. This is a movie that you need to see on the big screen, see it on IMAX. You need the biggest possible screen with the loudest possible sound. This movie is brilliant, amazing cinematography, amazing fight choreography, and a really good story. So that is why the John Wick series actually is number 9 on my list of greatest action movies, which is a bit of a cheat. Let's go over the remaining top 10. Then we'll get to the number 2 and number 1 position. So number 10 was all those bad Arnold and Sly movies that are just corny, cheesy movies that aren't really necessarily good movies if you break them down. Like, is Judge Dredd a good movie? Is Commando a good movie? I actually do think Demolition Man and Total Recall are good movies, but I just want to lump them all together. The other Arnold and Sly movies, we'll just say, because I don't want to say bad, because a lot of these actually are good. I like Cliffhanger. I think Cliffhanger is actually a really good movie. So I'm just going to say the other Arnold and Sly movies that aren't Terminator and First Blood. Number 9 on the list, as we mentioned, is the John Wick series. Number 8 is Lethal Weapon. Number 7, we have First Blood. Number 6, we have Jackie Chan's Rumble in the Bronx. Number 5, Aliens. Number 4, Predator. Number 3, Terminator 2. So we are down to the final 2 movies. Number 2 on this list, a lot of people think of as a Christmas movie. I just think of it as an amazing movie, directed by John McTiernan, who also directed Predator. It is 1988's Die Hard. This movie changed the way action movies would be made for the next 15 years or so. As much as I love those Arnold and Sly movies, they became very formulaic. A lot of imitators, and they were... Unfortunately, the imitators were not done very well. You have a jacked up meathead, and then you just have a lot of explosions for the sake of explosions, and no real character depth, no, emotional growth or attachment to a lot of the characters. You have these people that shouldn't be movie stars becoming movie stars, guys like Dolph Lundgren, who I like. I don't mean that he shouldn't be a movie star, but should he be like a leading man? No. Right? He's a good villain. He's a good henchman. He's a good side character even. But as far as like leading a franchise, no, he probably shouldn't have. But then Die Hard comes out, and it's so different because you have this character that is flawed. A lot of these other characters, they're indestructible. As we mentioned in Commando, Arnold's mowing down 150, 200 people. There's no flaws to him. I mean, physically, there's no flaws to him. Look at him. He has 0% body fat. He's got muscles in places where most people don't have places. And he doesn't really have any struggle throughout the movie. But with John McClane, played by the great Bruce Willis, there's a lot of... first of all, he doesn't really have many muscles. He has a thinning hairline. He's going through like a divorce. This is not your typical action hero, right? And I love the whole fish out of water character. He's this New York cop. He's in L.A. going to the West Coast. He doesn't want to go to the West Coast. He wants to chill in New York, but he wants to, show support for his wife. And he shows up to the Christmas party. But lo and behold, there's a group of terrorists that also enter that facility, wanting to rob it of all of its, valuables at the Nakatomi Plaza. And again, I think that's such a cool story. And I hate to compare it again to Home Alone because I mentioned that with First Blood, but there is a lot of Home Alone elements. It's a guy, trapped in a building and he's setting traps. He's taking down villain after villain. There's only Harry and Marv in Home Alone, but there is some sort of Home Alone element, which I guess is fitting since they're both Christmas movies. I think the emotional bond of Reginald VelJohnson's character, Al Powell, who's outside. He's really only John McClane's only ally throughout the movie. And he's sort of, relaying back and forth between the rest of the people outside, the police officers and the FBI, the SWAT team and whatnot. And I love that story of Sergeant Al Powell accidentally shooting somebody that was not really armed. He killed a kid. And that's a really dark thing to go through. And he's never fired his weapon since then. And at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, one of the terrorists that you think is dead, not the main bad guy, but one of the guys, the dude with the blonde hair, who's like a henchman in every single 80s movie, he's still alive. He comes out and he's about to shoot everybody. And then you just see a bullet come out of nowhere and Carl Winslow, Reginald VelJohnson's character, Sergeant Al Powell, just standing there with his gun, aiming forward. And it's like, oh my God, he fired a bullet and he saved everyone's life. It's a real character growth. You don't really get that with a lot of action movies. I love the villain, though. I think this is the reason why this movie ranks so high on my list is the villain. Hans Gruber is probably the greatest movie villain of all time. And again, he's not your typical type of movie villain. When you think of those movie villains that Arnold went up against, there was another guy that kind of looked like Arnold, another jacked up meathead. This guy wasn't going to be able to win any hand-to-hand combat battle or gunfight versus John McClane, but he's cerebral. He's going to use his mind. He's going to use the resources around him. So I love this character, and it's such a climactic ending. This movie just keeps on getting better and better as it goes on. A lot of these other movies have dips in it. As much as I love Predator, I think the first half is amazing. There's a little bit of slowness in the middle, but then it picks up again. Die Hard is it's completely momentum building, and maybe it doesn't start off so hot. It's more of a slower type of build, but once it starts going, you're on that roller coaster ride and you're rooting for this character. He's an underdog character, which is another trope in movies that I very much like. Die Hard's amazing. And I love Bruce Willis, and I know he's going through a lot of stuff right now. And Godspeed to them, man, because he's in some of the greatest action movies of all time. But this is by far his best. I like the sequels, actually. Die Hard 2 is all right. Die Hard 3 with a Vengeance is unbelievable. Die Hard 4 has some moments in it. They never really got the character of John McClane right, though. I think a lot of the scripts were actually written for different movies, and they just inserted John McClane in there. The first one is by far the best. I don't even recognize the fifth one as a movie. It's one of the worst movies, actually, of all time. But yeah, Die Hard I have as at number 2. And number 1 on my list, I've said it a million times, and it's RoboCop. And I could have put Transformers, the animated movie from 1986, which is my favorite movie of all time, but I want to just stick with live-action movies. RoboCop from, I believe, 87 as well. A lot of these are that 87, 88. Die Hard's 88, Predator's 87, RoboCop's 87. Lethal Weapon is 89? Let's see. Maybe it was actually 87. Wow. 87 had the best action movies ever. Lethal Weapon, Predator, and RoboCop all came out in 1987. So that is awesome right there. Again, RoboCop, there's not much I could say that I haven't said before. I love the character design of RoboCop. It's a cool Frankenstein type of story. There's a lot of Christ comparisons, actually. A guy getting resurrected. On paper, it sounds like a stupid movie. In fact, the director did not want to even read the script because he thought, oh, RoboCop, this is goofy. But then his wife read it, and she told him, Paul Verhoeven, who directed it, reread this, reread the entire thing, and you're going to love it. And he loved it. He put his spin on it, and it's got everything, man. It's everything that I love about a movie. Awesome sci-fi elements, amazing deaths, awesome villains, cool creature designs. It's one of those last movies that really utilizes all those old things that movies used to use, like miniatures and squibs and matte paintings and animatronics and real life sets and all that stuff. It's unbelievable. It's a movie I'll watch every single year. I do like RoboCop 2 actually a lot. But that first movie from 1987 is by far my favorite action movie of all time. So many great one-liners. I'd buy that for $1.